of those officers that were shot and killed in Dallas. It had nothing to do with anything that was going on, and you know, maybe we could blow this out really briefly. It's a difficult issue. This morning, I'd like to welcome everyone here. We have in the audience, we have our Mayor, David Coviello. We have Mike Ross, Commissioner Ross. We have Bob Anderson, Commissioner Anderson here. We have our interim clerk, Maria, somewhere. Where is she? We have Commissioner Fred Jonas over here. We also have two of our manager candidates here. We have Sharon Gregunian, is that how you say that?
Yes, Gregunian.
And Mark Cutney. So welcome. Thank you for coming. And for our police staff, we have our Chief McKenna. We have our Lieutenant Detective Lieutenant Pineda, and Officer Leslie Llanos. This morning, the Chief wants to present some information regarding the latest crime statistics, and he's prepared the handouts, which I guess most of you have picked up already at this point. So let me turn it over to the Chief. Did I miss anybody in the crowd? That it should be the whole thing, so I think I caught everybody.
If you wonder what the UCR program is, it's just a program designed to compare crime statistics for more than 18,000 law enforcement agencies around the United States. It was created in the late 1920s by the International Association of Chiefs of Police to meet the need for reliable crime statistics for the nation. In 1930, the FBI was tasked with collecting, publishing, and archiving those statistics. It is also intended to help provide a barometer of the crime conditions within a geographic jurisdiction. What crime statistics are compared in the UCR program? The UCR measures crime in categories they call Part 1 offenses and Part 2 offenses. Part 1 offenses are murder, manslaughter, forcible rape, robbery, aggravated assault, burglary, motor vehicle theft, arson, and larceny. Larceny is always the #1 crime reported in the United States every year. Larceny includes, but is not limited to, the theft of items from cars and trucks, bicycles, motor vehicle parts and accessories, shoplifting, pocket picking, theft of any property by any means other than force, and fraud. The many attempted thefts you see here in the village, they are also counted as larcenies in the UCR program. Part 2 offenses are everything else that is not a Part 1 offense, such as vandalism, prostitution, drug offenses. A statistical overview of larceny. In Miami-Dade County in 2015, there were 80,448 larcenies. 42 of those occurred in Biscayne Park. El Portal had 58 larcenies. Miami Shores had 420 larcenies. North Miami had 1,887 larcenies. A total crime index, that means it's a mathematical formula, it's a mathematical total of the number of Part 1 offenses in a municipality in a given year. The total crime index for Biscayne Park was 65 for 2015, meaning that there were 65 Part 1 offenses reported to the police that year. Biscayne Park had the 4th best crime index in Miami-Dade County in 2015. This means only 3 other communities in Miami-Dade County had less crime than Biscayne Park did. Indian Creek Village, Golden Beach, and Virginia Gardens all reported less crime than Biscayne Park had. What is meant by the crime rate? The crime rate is a mathematical number done by FDLE in the FBI that indicates the number of offenses per 100,000 residents. It's calculated by dividing the population by 100,000 and then dividing the number of offenses by the resulting figure. Biscayne Park finished 10th out of 35 Miami-Dade police agencies that reported a crime rate. 3 agencies did not submit their crime rate. Irrespective of the mathematical number that makes up the crime rate, only 3 communities in Miami-Dade County had less actual crimes. Again, Indian Creek Village, Golden Beach, and Virginia Gardens. How well does the UCR program work? Not as well as its creators had hoped it would. The FBI has revised it numerous times since its creation. It was revised many, many times in the 1950s, 1960s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and many, many times since 2000. All the revisions were necessary because laws have changed numerous times since the UCR program was created, and the goals of what the UCR program was trying to achieve have been changed many times. A major flaw of the UCR program is inaccuracy. This inaccuracy is caused by humans. Recording, calculating, and reporting crimes in the UCR program have varied from one police agency to another police agency. Even people in the same police agency have reported crime statistics in different ways to the UCR program, making year-to-year comparisons between agencies and even within the same agency problematic at times, varying from somewhat difficult to completely useless to compare. Well, you're probably wondering if there are instructions. Yes, there are. They're difficult, very complex, hard to understand, and not always comprehensive. And people oftentimes differ on how they interpret the instructions. Why are there different interpretations? The people that do the UCR program are required to know and to understand crime classifications in the UCR program, the hierarchy rule, separation of time and place rules, victim and offender rules, monetary classifications for property crimes, claiming of arrests, juvenile rules, unfounded crime rules. I'll give you one quick example. You see in our UCR reports that we had 3 robberies here in 2015. The UCR program requires that a robbery, which you would think is, okay, the bad guy's got a gun, give me your wallet, that's a robbery. Actually, the UCR program has 19 different ways a robbery is classified. Something as simple to understand as a robbery, 19 different ways to classify that. And all of these kind of issues make this very complex program to use and to understand. There's just numerous difficult to understand guidelines and instructions involved in the UCR program. Well, what are the results? The FBI has learned that when the UCR crime report statistics are not consistently compiled, what they wind up getting is a comparison of oranges and apples. What they really wanted was apples and apples. So what's the FBI doing about this? For more than 2 years, the FBI has been developing a new program called the National Incident-Based Reporting System, or NIBRS for short. The FBI will be doing away with the UCR program you're currently familiar with. The FBI believes the UCR program does not do what it was intended to do, which was to accurately compare crime from year to year and from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. The FBI believes the National Incident-Based Reporting System will finally give them not only the information they want, but will do it in an accurate fashion. The Florida Department of Law Enforcement has been working with the FBI on the creation and implementation of the National Incident-Based Reporting System. The important question for Biscayne Park residents is, can we compare the 2015 crime statistics accurately? Can we compare them to the crime statistics for the prior years at Biscayne Park? The answer is no, definitely not. Well, you're going to know why can't you do that. The answer is training, more training, and even more training. Well, who's being trained? That would be myself and Lieutenant Pineda. We're the ones being trained. And we're being trained by the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. They've been teaching us how to do this UCR program for the last 2 years. They've been working with us very closely so that Biscayne Park can get this program correctly. The training's been conducted via computer, telephone, in person here in Biscayne Park at the police station, and we've even been up to Orlando at the FDLE facility up there for training. What's been the benefit of the training? It's that in 2015 we have accurate UCR crime statistics for Biscayne Park, prepared the way FDLE needs them and the way the FBI needs them prepared. Well, what made the state think our crime statistics were inaccurate in the past? It was the very abnormal numbers reported by the Biscayne Police Department in the past. What seemed abnormal to everyone was that in 2013, Biscayne Park reported an 85.3% clearance rate on solving crimes. That made the Biscayne Park Police Department the best crime solvers in the entire state of Florida, and FDLE believed probably Biscayne Park Police Department was claiming it was the best agency in solving crimes in the United States. And this is without even having a full-time detective or investigative unit. As I said, the state felt that this might be the very best clearance rate in the entire United States that year. The state looked closer and they found that in 2012, the clearance rate for crimes in Biscayne Park was again the very best in the state of Florida. Just really, it's not possible. That's what they believed. That's what everybody in law enforcement believed. Just not really possible. The state of Florida then saw a very telltale sign. It was convincing to them. For at least a period of 10 years, the Biscayne Park Police Department reported more burglaries than larcenies in the UCR program. That doesn't happen anywhere in the United States, not in any year. Every city, town, and village in the United States always has more larcenies than they have burglaries. So what did the state decide was wrong here? It was a pretty easy answer for them. We were just doing it wrong. The Biscayne Park Police Department was doing their UCR statistics wrong. The state decided the best course of action was to provide good training to the police department. That process began when Lieutenant Pineda and I got here at the end of 2014. That's when they started working with us, trying to teach us how to do it the right way. It was more than just an understanding of how to compile the information from police reports. We had to do more than that. The way officers actually wrote the reports out in the field, out on the street, that required training. So here we are in 2016, and the state feels that all officers have finally learned to write the reports the way the state wants them done and the way the FBI needs them done for the UCR program, so that our information is moving accurate. It's accurate moving forward in time. The Biscayne Park's Police Department's statistics, in the opinion of FDLE, are now accurate in accordance with their guidelines and the FBI's UCR guidelines. Well, you're going to ask, can we fix the old statistics? Well, no. Well, why not? Well, the state of Florida and the FBI will not go back to correct old statistics because they were submitted wrong. Even if we wanted to know just for ourselves, many of the records the old statistics were based on are no longer accessible. And a very big problem is that we just don't have anybody to do it. It takes about 60 hours of actual time working just on the UCR program to compile just 1 year worth of UCR data accurately. We would really have to hire probably a research analyst to do this work. You have to understand the UCR program is very time consuming to put this information together the way the FBI wants it. And the other agencies don't do it the way we do it. One example I put here for you is the Miami Shores Police Department. They have a person dedicated full-time, 52 weeks a year, full-time to just the UCR program. A lot of agencies have computer programs. and they have staff, programmers, analysts, research technicians, all of that. We don't have any of that. So a big question you're going to have is our clearance rate of only 1.5% for 2015, is that accurate? Is that correct? The answer to that question is yes and no. So you want to know why? Well, why am I saying it's accurate? I'm saying it's accurate because that's what we reported to the state of Florida. I'm saying it's not accurate because we made an administrative change here in 2016. We intentionally left cases open that we were allowed by UCR guidelines and by the state and FBI guidelines to close. We're not required to close a case by their guidelines, and we left them open because Lieutenant, and I agreed with them, we felt there was a chance, even though it's a remote chance, we felt there was a chance we could at some point make an arrest on these open cases. We could have easily closed these cases and moved on to the next thing, which is what is almost done. You're typically going to see that in the other agencies. When they can close a case out, they do. It's good for the clearance rate. It's not always so good for the community. And what you saw happen here is we left the cases open in the hope of making an arrest. And we wanted to make every victim here, every victim of a crime or an offense, we wanted to make them important and not worry about our crime rate and not just simply close things out and move on to the next thing. We wanted to make a difference here, and that's what we tried to do. So when can we, you might probably ask them, well, when can you close out a case? I'm going to give you some examples of when we can do that. It's not limited to the list I have here, but these are just some of them. When we've made an arrest, when the victim refuses to cooperate, some reason behind our control that prevents an arrest from occurring. An example would be somebody breaks into your car and then they move to the state of Connecticut. The state attorney's office is not going to send anybody up there to pick them up, so they're not going to prosecute, and that would be an example of when it's beyond our control and we would close the case out. When a juvenile is involved, when a civil citation is involved, when a suspect is arrested for a more serious offense. It's like we're looking for somebody for a car burglary, and North Miami arrests that person for stabbing someone in a street robbery, and they arrest them, and that person's seriously injured. That's a more serious offense. That's the one that sticks. We would be able to close our case out by UCR guidelines. When the state attorney decides not to prosecute, we can close out our case. When the victim refuses to prosecute, and believe it or not, that happens a lot to us here. We've had a few burglaries, one just very recently. We've actually made an arrest on residential burglaries and not car burglaries. We go to court, and the victim of the crime, they flat out refuse to cooperate. They refuse to prosecute. Lieutenant Pineda went to great pains to insist that the state attorney's office subpoena one of our residents into court to prosecute somebody that we knew had done probably a couple of dozen burglaries here. We made the arrest. The victim, they refused to prosecute, and actually what they told us was that it wasn't the bad guy's fault that they broke into the car. It was society's fault for not providing them with the educational opportunities and job opportunities and all of that, and they flat out refused to cooperate. We had to actually subpoena them into court. That's what the state attorney's office did. We just had a burglary, I can't remember the street. It was Brittany Villazin's arrest. She went to court. The state attorney told her to show up for trial. She gets there. The victim refused to show up. The victim never showed up. We couldn't prosecute. We've had a few residential burglaries where the victim goes, okay, you got my stuff back for me, you got my bicycle back for me, you got my this back for me, you got my that back for me, I don't want to prosecute. Even though we've got somebody in custody in the back of the patrol car. No, I'm not going to, I wanted to report it, you got my stuff back, that's all I wanted. Well, that really hurts our ability to prosecute a bad guy for an offense if the person who's the victim refuses to prosecute. And actually, ordinarily, we can't prosecute. And Lieutenant Pineda can tell you on that Joey St. Remy, who's now in prison for 4, 5, 6 years, 4 years, for breaking into numerous cars here. Lieutenant Pineda had to jump through hoops to make that happen because our victim here, our resident, refused to cooperate with us. So you probably wonder, well, I'm talking about we could have closed cases, so how many cases could we have closed in 2015 that we intentionally left open? We had 65 crimes here in 2015. Of those 65 crimes, we intentionally left open, and our clearance rate was, we reported to the state, was 1.5%. That's what we told them we cleared. We intentionally left open 20 of those 65 cases. We could have closed 20 of them. If we did that, and we would have been well within our rights to close those cases, almost all the other agencies closed these cases out. We chose to, for administrative reasons, chose to leave them open. If we had closed them, we would have wound up with a clearance rate of 32.3%. That one man sitting right there would have had a 32.3% clearance rate. If you don't know what that means, I'm going to tell you. Of all the police agencies in Miami-Dade County, their average is only 18.4%. He did better by himself than most agencies with investigative teams and detective divisions did. 32% he could have cleared, and the county only did 18.4%. Of the 20, if the 20 cases were closed out administratively in the UCO program, we would have had the 6th best clearance rate of all the police agencies in Miami-Dade County. So how do we get crime even lower than it is now? So that's a question that everybody always asks when I talk to them here or privately, or they stop by the station. What can we do to get crime even lower than it is? Well, I think that Crime Watch is very important. The work Chuck Ross does is immeasurably valuable to this community. And your participation in Crime Watch and working with each other and paying attention to your neighbors and attending meetings and finding out what's going on, signing up for Chuck's email list, reading his messages, finding out who we might be looking for, what the patterns are, just know what's going on around you. This is very key if you want to get crime down here. Take the time, make the effort to know your neighbors. You have to know your neighbors. If you know your neighbors, and you want them to know you too, you don't have to like them, but you got to know them, because if you know them, you know. If you know them, you know when something's out of place. You know when there's a car there at that house that doesn't belong there. You will know when somebody's at that house that doesn't belong there. If you know them and they know you, you can watch out for each other, and you can know when something's wrong, and you can get us down there to do something about it. You've got to pay attention. Those two things are very critical. Being involved in Crime Watch, listen to what Chuck tells you, sign up for his emails, encourage your neighbors to sign up for Chuck's emails, and know everybody around you so that you know when the least little thing is out of place. It's very important. Communicate with us. People so many times tell us, well, I didn't want to bother you guys. Well, we're not here to play chess or checkers. We're here to serve this community. And when you feel something's out of place, that's what you have us for, to come down there and check it out. Find out what's wrong, find out what that suspicious person is doing, find out if they're up to no good. The worst thing that is ever going to happen, and when you tell us you think something is wrong, the worst thing that's ever going to happen is that we're going to check it and we're going to find out it was okay. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's better to be safe than sorry. You don't have to wait till you see a burglar coming out of a house with a television set in his hands to call us. If you see a suspicious person by your neighbor's house, call us. Let us come down before there is a crime or while it's in progress. Please don't wait until the bad guy is gone. And again, this just is a bullet about, please let us know if you see something you don't like. You don't have to be right. If there's something that bothers you, nobody knows this community better than each of you do. You live here. You know the community better than the police department knows the community. If somebody knows that something's going to be out of place, it's going to be you. If you just would just let us know when you're uncomfortable with something, we can do so much to help you, and we can make this such a better place. But it has to be a team effort. We can only do so much without you. You have to be our partner always, every day, and all the time. You have to be our partner. You have to tell us when you don't like something. Some of the things that also will help crime be reduced is the police making traffic stops, having a very high visibility by the police, also known as omnipresence. The police department needs to create the impression among the bad guys that we might show up on a street at any time, at any moment of the day or night. We might come down that street, and when they also have to learn that when we go down a street, we might turn around and come back and go down that street again. So they have to have a fear that we might show up at any time. So patrolling is very important to reduce crime. And investigating suspicious circumstances and speaking with people that look at a place or look suspicious or look like they might be up to no good. Our officers filling out field interview reports, field observation reports, and turning them over to Lieutenant Pineda to investigate these people. All of these things are very, very important to help reduce crime. Learning from the successes of other police departments and other communities. We are always watching for those kind of issues. Chuck comes to us oftentimes with things that he's seen done in other communities. Commissioner Ross has come to us several times with things she wants us to consider implementing here because they've been successes in other communities. So we can't be an island in our views on policing. We have to see what worked and what didn't work, what was a success and what was a failure in other communities besides our own, and what other police departments have done to help combat crime and help reduce crime. I sound like a broken record with this, but alarm systems do help nationally. Alarm systems help cut down crime because bad guys typically would prefer to break into a house that does not have an alarm system. It gives them more time to do their crime inside the house before the police are notified and respond down there. Usually, not always, but usually if they see that a house has an alarm system, they're going to look for a house that does not have an alarm system. Locking your homes and locking your cars can very much help us to reduce crime. One of our recent burglaries, the homeowner left all the doors open on the house. He just went out for a couple of hours. He came back and he had been the victim of a burglary. So our officers on the scene said, "Sir, it would be better if you locked your doors up. You could be safer, protect the contents of your home better if you locked your doors up." And the gentleman said to us, "Well, this is Biscayne Park. Nothing ever happens here. I don't need to lock my doors up on my house." Well, he was a victim of a crime. The person didn't break into the house next door that was locked up. They broke into his house. It was very easy to get into. There was no alarm system. They probably saw him leave. He was only out for a couple hours. They got a few items. But locking your houses up, very important. Locking the cars is very important. We typically don't see cars having smashed windows if they're locked up. Typically, Lori Allen, I think you're here. Lori saw on her video somebody try to get into her car, but it was locked up, and because it was locked up, they just moved on to the next vehicle. We have roughly 3 or 4 cars last year that were locked, that were broken into. One I know was on Griffin Boulevard. It was a house under construction. The owner of the house, in the middle of the day, that was surprising. Yes. Yeah, I didn't forget you. You know I love you. I was going to get to you. Typically, bad guys will not break into cars that are locked up, and Chuck has provided us with many videos showing this. We've gotten many videos from other agencies on our own showing this, and our victims here of car burglaries, most of them, almost all of them tell us, I'm sorry, officer, I left it unlocked. And that's what they're telling us. So nationally, everybody finds that if you lock your cars up, the bad guys tend to look for a car that is unlocked. So please try to remember to keep your cars locked up. Cameras can be a very big deterrent. Crimes have been solved. Lieutenant, I can't reveal too much of the details, but one of our residents had an excellent camera system here, and it helped us to identify the bad guy in an actual street robbery we had here. So the cameras, this person's going to be arrested and for that robbery, and that's a very, that's a very serious crime, and that was because of a camera. The victim did not know the person who robbed them, but because one of our residents had a great camera system, Lieutenant Pineda has been able to identify the person, and that was the bad guy, and we'll be making that arrest.
I just wanted to add something on that, Chief.
Just yell at them like you yell at me usually.
If you are considering getting a camera system for the home, it's important that the quality is essential. We've had residents who have video surveillance. However, when we pull these tapes, and I don't know much about this stuff, but I've got friends over at Homeland Security on a couple of cases that have done me favors and tried to expand the picture so that we can get a facial recognition of the offender. And when you blow it up, I guess there's pixels and all this other stuff that will not allow that to happen. So if you're going to invest in one, you might as well make sure that you invest in one that's high quality. I guess it's 1080 or whatever the resolution is.
Actually, we have someone in the audience that came to the meeting today that's in the business event. Maybe we can get him to speak on it, if that would be okay with the crowd briefly. But let's get to the presentation.
Let me finish this up first.
I just wanted to make sure the board forgot.
Leslie, you don't have anything to jump in there with?
No, sir.
Okay. And another point is we can reduce crime by residents making suggestions to us about how we can do things better. An example would be recently some residents have brought up the idea to the village about increasing street lighting here in the village. Now, this is a beautiful village, and I'm not even for a second going to get into the issue of is it going to make the village, it's beautiful the way it is. I'm only commenting on, will lighting reduce crime? Yes, lighting will reduce crime, but there's plenty of other ideas that you will also have. Please bring them to us. You can email me 24 hours a day. You can leave me a voicemail 24 hours a day. You can come by the station. You can tell the commissioners. You can tell the village manager. There's just so many ways to get us your ideas. Another idea that you had, and it came from a village resident, and it's a great idea, we should have an unmarked police car. Yeah, that's a great idea. You know, we had some, I got rid of them because everybody was telling me, we really don't see the police. So I turned all those unmarked cars into marked cars. And that was a mistake in that I didn't leave even a single unmarked car. So we don't have an unmarked car for traffic, we don't have an unmarked car for surveillance. That was a mistake. We're going to fix that in the next year's budget. Thank you very much, Mayor. Thank you, Commissioners, for that new unmarked car. Okay, this is that's the end of what I wanted to say, and I'll take any questions or have any discussion on this. Sir.
Before we get started, so what I'd like to do is I'll recognize people so we don't cross talk over each other. And then maybe during the question and answer period, we can ask our guests here to talk a little bit about the cameras as well. But let's get through the question and answer. Yeah. Sorry about that. Is that better? I see. I got a bunch of people with questions. Okay.
Let me, Tracy.
My question has to do with a notice and change with 911. When you asked us to call, which we used to do regularly, what we find happens now is they put us through the non-emergency, that takes usually quite a few minutes to get somebody on. By the time they do non-emergency and they contact you, I'm told from the officers it can be up to 45 minutes to an hour before you get the call. So if we find suspicious activity, we used to be able, you guys would be there in 5-10 minutes max. Now you may not come out for an hour because you didn't get the call. So one of my concerns is 911 seems, unless there's an active crime being committed, everything will go to non-emergency. I don't know if that can be switched, but it is a real problem for us because we have a fantastic police force, but they can't very well do their jobs if they're not notified in time.
Yeah, we've had a lot of suggestions about how to handle that, from, well, we should have our own 911 center, so to we should make the county do it the way we want to do it. Miami-Dade County is 2.6 million people, and it is by far the worst crime rate in the state of Florida. They have a limited staff at 911 over there, and when we're calling about a suspicious person or some minor offense, they put us back to the end of the line because other people are calling in. I just found a body, somebody's just been shot, I've been stabbed, there's gang shooting in progress, there's all of these kind of things.
That's the answer right there, when you call in.
We are part of a county-wide system that handles very serious crime, and we typically do not have that here. And, yes, Tracy?
My question is, it's more of a question of functionality. Aren't we isn't our call center part of a tri-county, a tri-village area or a tri-city area? Aren't we part of like,
Gee,
Well, how was that for everything?
I hate microphones. She's such a mean boss.
if we're part of like, I think, and I forget because you told me, but I'm sorry, I don't remember. I know we're part of like three, I don't know if we're part of El Portal and somebody else. Can't we have a different policy of how we implement 911 among the three? Is that a possibility?
It's a possibility. Could we do that? Yes, the expense would be, it's just totally cost prohibitive. And if everybody here in the village was millionaires, I would urge you not to do it because we get cut off from information from the other agencies. So if we have a, say like your house gets burglarized and they're going up the street in a little yellow Volkswagen, instead of just getting on the radio with all the other police agencies and telling them that the car's going north on 6th, we have to telephone them. We have to go through a telephone. That information has to go from the telephone person on their end out to their cars. Now the car's gone before their patrol cars even get the information. If we give it out, if we are on the same frequency, they get it while the car's still on 6th Avenue. That also applies to information coming in here, people that are wanted for many, many different crimes. We get that information instantly. So being on our own little bubble would be a very bad idea for efficiency, being able to solve crimes, getting information on crimes, just all kinds of issues, missing children, just so many different things. We need to be in a very good communications network. And what we're struggling here with is we are calling with minor things and getting put to the back of the queue because they're taking the more serious things. And they're going to tell you that their staff is comprised of the number of people they feel that they need for average workload. Now, when bad things happen, like one day, North Miami had multiple shootings all at the same time. It was so crazy up there, they had to have our officers go up there and handle their 911 calls. They were fresh out of officers. They were all at shootings. So our Biscayne Park police officers were up there for about 45 minutes before they could get their own officers from off duty in to handle the calls. When it's so busy like that, the staff that they have on at 911 can't handle the workload. So if you call in, somebody just broke into Milton's car and they're running down the street, they're putting that behind. No, not right now.
Good to know.
I would have stopped to ask an officer to go over there and do something.
Thank you.
Chief,
There are a
Milton.
lot of questions.
Well, wait, okay, hold on.
We'd like an opportunity.
Yeah, just wait a second. Okay, so Milton had a question, David had a question, Judy has a question in the
I
back
think
of the room.
Milton was the
Gary.
first
So let's
hand
start
up.
with, hey, Bill, you want to start? And then
Yeah,
we'll go
thanks.
there, David?
Thanks, Chuck. And
Chief, I can't see what's going on when you stand in front of me, sorry. Just stand over here.
I like being out here.
firstly, I wanted to thank both Chief and Chuck for taking a proactive response and calling this meeting. I know we had one not that long ago, and to address these numbers. And again, I think there's a reason why the numbers were posted in the first place, because we have, and I can only speak for long-term residents, over the last couple years had a feeling or a perception of change from what we have become accustomed to. We've talked about this at these Crime Watch meetings. And though our crime has always been, and thankfully, less than surrounding municipalities, I wanted to more focus on how we're doing against ourselves. Let me ask Chief first, what month did you first have these 2015 crime stats available?
I think FDLE posted them about a month ago.
I think so.
We
That's
don't
what I
really
saw.
know. We're not sure when they posted them, roughly.
When did you have them available? Was that the same time, or did you submit them and then there was some drag before they were posted?
Oh, I don't remember when I submitted them to them. It was prior to them releasing them, because they wait for all the agencies in the state before they release them.
Okay. Do you feel it's important to disclose this type of department performance with taxpayers as we're doing today?
Do I feel it? Say it again, please?
Is it important to you to have disclose this type of performance to the residents or taxpayers as we're doing today?
Anytime you want to know, sure.
More collectively than individually? I mean, publicly?
I probably don't understand your question.
Okay, let me move on. I think the concern we have seen is a year-to-year jump. And again, I know it's 36 to 65, which is still low, but that is still almost 81%. From 14 to 15, and then from 13 to 15, 141 increase. So that was, the clearance rate has been explained somewhat as to why that jumped out at me as being so much lower than the rest of the municipalities. Are you suggesting that all of the rest of the municipalities are not filling these forms out correctly?
I made no suggestion about what the other agencies are doing, no.
Because the
Said
numbers
nothing about
were a
it.
little-
I clearly set up here that the information from the prior years was wrong.
Our years.
For Biscayne Park, because it was done improperly. The state is certain it was done improperly. And why was it done improperly? The state felt we need to be trained.
Okay, and do we have, due to the nature of our crimes, which is mostly larceny and burglary and the occasional car theft, are we designing a program to specifically look to do that, since that seems to be our area of problem?
Correct. I think he's asking, is there a proactive plan to try and dissuade? Is that what you're saying?
Well, are we focusing our efforts on what our crimes are, or more of an overall effort, if that can be even
Police
said?
have to focus on everything from traffic to serious crimes, to street robberies, drugs, gang issues, terrorism issues, everything that maybe you don't hear about every day, but we have to address everything, and specifically like the car burglaries. Let me think, Jury St. Remy, we identified, we're talking about 2015 statistics now, of those 42 larcenies, which we have to put car burglaries, what Florida calls car burglaries, the rest of the nation calls larcenies. So those 42 larcenies, we know that Jury St. Remy, who's in prison now, definitely did 13 of them. We suspect he probably did roughly 24 of them. Kevin Lopez was on patrol one night. He sees a suspicious person. He goes up to interview him and finds out he's breaking into a car. This person breaking into a car had a drug problem and was just, going in for loose change, whatever he might get a little bit of money for. And this person had 3 loaded handguns on him. We're very lucky we did not have a loss of Officer Lopez, because we weren't thinking in terms of somebody breaking into a car to get some change, having 3 loaded handguns on him. And Mac, this is why I beg you, please don't let us do stuff, because people have guns like
What did
that.
I do?
No, I asked you before. Please let us.
Oh, I just wave at people to slow down when they drive too fast past me. They think I'm waving at them typically. Hi, slow down.
So that night that Kevin made that arrest, that person did 6 that night. So there's 19 of those 42 confirmed with just 2 people. And as I said, Jory St. Remy probably did a lot more. Now, after Lieutenant Pineda was able, through a lot of hard work, to get Jory St. Remy put in prison, we're not seeing really any car burglaries. They've dropped. It's like nobody has cars here anymore. We get some, but not like we were getting when he was out.
Not as
You
consistent.
know, it was like Jory was out every night here. He was bothering us every single night. And we had made prior arrests of Jory St. Remy, and we had a very big problem with our residents refusing to press charges. And he was arrested one time. He got let go. They let him back out on the street immediately.
Correct.
So it's a, you know, there's a lot of issues to deal with when we identify somebody that is actually breaking into cars. And, you know, we've pretty much been begging